absolutely gorgeous day outside. I mean, look at my view on my deck. Isn't that calming just to hear the running water? Well, I thought I'd do a review of a cookbook out here on the deck because it's just so pleasant. Just a word of warning, you may hear gunshots in the background, and no, I'm not being invaded. I live near a gun range, and because it is a beautiful day, there's going to be people out there having fun. But maybe gunshots in the background is appropriate for, yep, Prepper Cookbook. I saw this cookbook and I thought, wow, I've got to get it. It says 20 years of cooking in the woods, and then when you read the back, it's disaster cooking made fun, easy, and healthy. Well, that sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Features over 100 recipes from author Deborah D take you on a fun, step-by-step journey to recreate the same meals she makes every day using only what she has stored in her pantry. And I think a lot of us look for that. What should we store and how can we use it? So I bought this cookbook and now I'm going to review it and let you know if I think you should buy it too. This cookbook is not the first book I've read by Deborah Moore. She also writes some prepper apocalyptic novels, and I read the series, I think it was the first one was The Journal. And what I liked about it, it had a female protagonist, and it took place in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan when an EMP occurred. And just think of that. Much different surviving an EMP when you are in the frigid north than in the temperate south, where a lot of the prepper apocalyptic novels occur. Now, these novels weren't the finest written, but I did get tips, and I did enjoy it because I know the UP country. So I thought I'd try her cookbook. Now, Deborah has an interesting background. I believe she was born in southeast Michigan, and when she was first married, she was in the Detroit area. Well, eventually, 2 divorces later, she's living up in the Upper Peninsula and raising 2 young boys. And she spent part of this time out in the woods, right in the nothingness of the UP. Now, for those of you that have never been in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and I have to ask, why not? It sure is a beautiful vacation spot. But I think it's like about 84% of the Upper Peninsula is just woods. It's all forested. And you can go a lot of miles and never see another person. Yes, we have a bigger city, Marquette, on the western side, but basically it is not a heavily populated area, and it is more populated by people who kind of have the independent pioneer spirit, because there is not a lot of industry there or reason to live there unless you just love the land and love to hunt and to fish and just love the natural beauty surrounding you. Remember I mentioned the snow in the UP? Well, that can range anywhere from 20 feet for winter to 30 feet. And believe me, sometimes it's not like it's melting, you get all the snow and then it melts and then you get it again. It's just staying there all winter long. So, Deborah really honed her skills living in the woods because she had to have a well-equipped pantry because she might not be able to get out where she was living and have to spend 5 months or more in the woods living off her pantry. So, based on her experience, she wrote this cookbook. Well, I had to read you the beginning here. It starts out to a woman's ode to prepping. I'm not into fashion. I like camouflage. I got surveillance equipment stashed in my garage. I don't wear many skirts. I kind of like my jeans, and they go so much better with my bullets and my beans. And it's a long poem. It ends with, when Teowaki is finally here, I'll be hunkered in my retreat. Family will be near. And I got flour, sugar, and my salt, and if you don't, that's your own damn fault. So, you can kind of see where she's coming from, and you might get a kick out of reading the whole thing. Over the contents here, it talks about where she grew up, where she's from, the working pantry versus the retreat pantry, and the retreat food storage. And then it goes into soup, salads, and snacks, learning to cook on a wood stove, snacks, salads, pasta, breads, and pastries, venison, fish, and chicken, and then miscellaneous, and then something she calls bits and pieces. So right at the start, she explains the difference between what she calls a working pantry and a retreat pantry. And she figures the working pantry is for 6 months of food storage. It's what you pull every day when you're cooking. As opposed to the retreat pantry is to last 30 years, and it may be at a different location. So this book is mainly on the working pantry. And she gives some tips if you want to know what to store in your pantry. Keep grocery receipts for a month and keep the meals you made. Then figure out how much of each item you need and wait for it going on sale until you stock your pantry. I enjoyed the section in the book that went over how to make crackers. She had how to make corn chips, how to make soda crackers, cheesy crackers, graham crackers, and even wheat crackers. And that would be a great thing to know if you can't run out to the store and buy the graham crackers that your children love so much. I enjoyed the section on bread. She starts with her basic recipe and then says how to change it if you want to make French bread or Italian bread or pita bread or bagels or even Ezekiel bread. Only about 30 pages of this book was spent on entrees, and I really thought that could have been more extensive. There was a lot spent to me on salads, which I didn't think was as important as going over your entrees. But anyway, basically she talks about venison and chicken and fish, because think about it. Well, where she was living, she wasn't raising a cow, but she did have chickens, and I'm sure if she didn't hunt, her mate did or somebody around her hunted, so she was getting venison. And fishing, everybody fishes in the UP, right? So there are quite a few of those recipes, but I would have liked to seen more wild game recipes. I'm surprised she didn't feature rabbit, which is also plentiful and is a great thing to stock your pantry with. And what about turkeys and moose and bear? I mean, there's a lot of hunting going on in the UP. So there would be a lot of ways to add to your pantry, but none of those recipes are featured. And I also thought it was deficient in panfish recipes, because like I said, fishing is really a popular pastime. I know as a kid, used to go with my brother sometimes up to Lake Gogebic. He loved fishing there for the big perch and the walleye. And oh, walleye is so good. But that's never mentioned here. And the same way, there's some venison recipes, but not that many. And again, my father and my brothers used to go up to Two Heart, to a very rustic deer camp, and that was part of their deer hunting season. Now, one of the things she's listed in the entree section is pasties. And don't get any thoughts here. Pasties that you eat, they're kind of like a hand meat pie. And they were real popular in the UP because the wives would wrap this meat pie in a cloth, and then at lunchtime the miners would take it out, and their hands were really dirty, right? So they just hold the cloth and then eat the pie so they didn't get the pie dirty. And these miners were mainly of Swedish and Finnish heritage. And these pies were made with meat filling and rutabaga, which a lot of young people don't even know what rutabaga is, but that was a traditional ingredient in pasties. And everybody has their own recipe up there. It is a UP or Yooper soul food. I was also surprised when she was talking about the breads that she didn't cover, I don't know if it's pronounced pulla, P-U-L-L-A bread. It's a really popular Finnish bread. It's made with cardamom, and the spices are a bit different, and it is sold in just about every bakery up there. My business partner actually was born in Marquette, and that is a holiday tradition that her family makes this bread, and she usually brings some back to work, which I appreciate because I really enjoy it. But it is missing in here. So would I recommend spending $10.87 on the paperback version of this book, or I think it was a little over $5 for the Kindle version? You know, I'm conflicted on that. I'm kind of neutral. But part of the problem might be that I'm evaluating this book as a Michigander. So I was looking for more things, more recipes native to our state. And maybe someone who read it from outside the area would not feel that way. But I also am reading it as a prepper. And I wish she would have included what her pantry consisted of. It would have really been nice to see what her 6-month supply was of items. And she talks a little bit about how she kept those items throughout the year, but it would be nice to know how she stored each item. Because as preppers, it doesn't do us very good to have a 6-month pantry and have something go bad. So I would have preferred more how-to tips and prepper tips. On many of the recipes at the bottom, there is a wine selection. You know, not something that I worry about in my pantry. So to me, that was kind of frivolous. I also missed color pictures. You know, the cover looks nice, but when you go in here, I mean, there might be a drawing, or let's see, or the pictures are very shadowy, and there aren't any pictures of what she made. And I love seeing what a finished product looks like before I make it. Now, I do understand that would probably greatly increase the price of this cookbook, but still, I did miss it. Before each chapter starts, she usually says a little personal passage. It might have been what she went through, might have been interaction with nature, but each one starts the chapters. They don't necessarily flow into the chapter, though. I felt it was kind of disconnected often. I would have preferred to see something more related to the food. You know, and maybe that's one of the problems here. Is this a book about living in the wilderness? Is it a book about the nature surrounding her? Or is it about cooking? Or is it about prepper cooking? I think it kind of gets mixed up. So, like I said, I'm conflicted. I am curious. Have any of you bought this book? If so, what did you think? I'd love to hear your comments below. And maybe I'm just a bit jaded. And maybe if I didn't cook as much as I did, maybe some of these recipes would mean more to me also. You know, it depends on what stage of cook you are. So bottom line, I guess buy it if you're more a beginning cook, you collect cookbooks, or if you're interested in Deborah's life. But I wouldn't necessarily say that this is something you should add to your prepper pantry cookbook shelf. Have you found a really great cookbook that goes over cooking from food storage? Please comment below. And as always, thank you so much for subscribing. And please subscribe and share this knowledge. Thumbs up if you like the video. And if you want to continue to receive notifications of my video, click on that little bell below. I hope you are having a very enjoyable day.